I think what we've done primarily is to look at economic development not as simply trying to attract new corporations to headquartered here, which was the traditional concept of business development. But we recognize that small business growth is really the backbone of what's happening here. You know, a person gets an early retirement, a stash of money, has a certain expertise, and opens up a one-man business that can become a 5-person business, maybe a 25-person business. In an ideal situation, it becomes Regeneron. But what we have done is through programs like Element 46, Launch 1000, the programs that we've done with the MWBE community, minority and women business-owned enterprises, where we've spent $250 million over 6 years, $250 million. We've invested county money during this COVID crisis so that we helped keep certain things afloat. We were able to provide financial assistance to certain organizations, not-for-profit organizations. We helped keep local chambers of commerce afloat during the COVID situation. So I think we've shown a flexibility and a cooperativeness that you don't normally attach to government and in our dealings with business. And I would say the most important thing, you asked upfront about philosophy. I spent 20 years of my life working in a corporate setting that overlapped the first few years of my elective office, but you don't see that on my resume. The fact that I worked for subsidiaries of Nestle and ITT, the fact that I had in those roles, in what I was doing in sales and marketing, I had interaction with many other major corporations in small pieces, not at the very top level of them, but in certain defined ways, helped me understand that the business community is not a source where you attach a tap and you start pouring out like a keg, you start pouring out tax dollars. You view their success as your success, and if those businesses grow, then they do generate revenues out of their profits, and that does help the society move forward. It's the right kind of relationship in this society.
One thing that Westchester has that many counties do not have is an airport. In the case of Westchester Airport, there is a huge use of it by business, both large and small. Where do you see that going in the future?
Well, I mean, it is clearly an essential transportation hub. The fact that there is an airport here in Westchester County, even given the size and scope of what it can do, is another one of those essential reasons why businesses come to Westchester and stay in Westchester. And we're seeing now, of all the operations at the airport, 80% of them are general aviation. And while we might think of general aviation as two guys in a small plane flying someplace, the general aviation in Westchester County is much more pivoted around corporate jets, those that are owned by corporations or leased or accessed by corporations, and those that are accessed by individuals of personal wealth, that they want to be able to fly for their convenience where they want to go and have that general aviation capacity to do that. I think we're in a difficult situation in that the area around the airport and under the flight path of the airport involves lots of residential homes, and those residential homes are significant homes and significant investments by the people that live there. So we have a tension that maybe other places don't have. I talked to colleagues who are county executives of some upstate counties. They would love to have an airport like ours, and they would, in theory, grow it to its maximum capacity. But we have limitations there because the airport, as valuable as it is also a difficult neighbor for the people that live around it and underneath the flight path. And so we've moved with great caution before just going pedal to the metal. We understand that the portion of our mobility that involves air traffic for people and goods is very valuable to us, but we can't just have unlimited expansion. It's not what the people of Westchester want. So we're in a balancing point. I think we need to modernize the terminal for commercial use. Right now, the flow of people that go in and out of the terminal is not effective given the new TSA rules, relatively new TSA rules, and the volume at the airport. But the volume at the airport is still capped by the number of passengers per half hour, and it's still capped by the number of gates. And those are protections that prevent it from becoming an even larger, facility with even more people coming through. So I think over these 6 years, we've tried to strike that balance. It's a perpetual challenge. 3 years from now, I'm not in office. Somebody else is going to have to figure out how to keep that balance. And sometimes it's litigious, where different people out there want to do certain things that's good for their bottom line, but not necessarily good for the county at large, and when we fall on the side of protecting our residents. I'm one of you. I grew up in this county. I went to public schools in this county. My parents were blue-collar workers who worked hard to buy the tiniest little house that my sister and I could grow up in. and he was a maintenance man. She was a factory worker. They had no distant imagination that this little baby son of theirs could be the county executive or a state legislator or anything else like that. But I'm of that experience, and other people that I relate to are also of that experience, and so therefore the leadership that we need does not come just from great men and women. They come from within us as people. That out of the the e pluribus unum, out of the many one, that leadership can rise from any place. It can rise from a small house on the south side of Mount Vernon. It could rise from some place in Ossining or Peekskill or Tarrytown or North Side. It could rise anywhere. But that's what we have to do. We have to believe that democracy is our best path to self-governance, and it's not tyranny. It's not turn it over to one person, make one person the absolute king. That's a terrible, awful thing. History's shown us that's a terrible thing to do. Don't do that. And that's why I believe in term limits. I also believe there's a time to come and there's a time to go. And in that period of time, if I can do as much as good as I can do, then that reinforces sort of the Harry Truman-esque sense that anybody can rise to the moment if they're prepared for it.